Thank you. Thank you. Here's what I have written: a circle of influence, vibrations or something caused goosebumps on my arms from 432 to A440 Schumann resonance, 8 hertz, the frequency of the earth, they say. So they have a sales pitch, the pitch, the vibration thing, finely tuned to 440 vibrations, 440 vibrations in a minute, based on the arc of a pendulum, or so I have heard. Somehow along my journey it was a pendulum, and when it swings 1 meter, it takes 1 second. They have it all figured out because they're globe lovers. We adopted our vortex beings drawn like water, H2O to HIM, to be combined into an insoluble bond. I wanted to be an artist that was so clearly talented, of gifts, gifted that I could live down the shame of not wanting to be a union electrician and work with my hands and do the best with my limited education. I didn't know how I was going to make a living. It seems like it would have been the best case scenario: jump on a union job, $30, $40 an hour in the 1970s or 80s. Too much had gone on in my life, too much young, too many schools, too many reading and writing styles that were being experimented on young people in the, I was born in 58. So, in the 60s, they were experimenting the see Jane run, see spot. Oh, the look say method. No more phonics. Palmer handwriting style. And it was all what we're going through right now, leading up to this. All the stories were the same. It was going to be a dystopia. Too many schools, too many reading and writing styles being experimented on the youth of the United States in the 1960s and 70s had their history. Those people had their history rewritten in front of my eyes, in front of your eyes, which unfortunately I rubbed a pepper. I think I touched my eye and I shaved and thought I washed my hands, but that's the feeling of I got a pepper on my eye. But we're going to find that disclaimer and worry about that later. I should do a share the screen thing. And there it is. It's just a matter of a few things you got to do. Boom! Is it sharing it? Yeah, I think it is. Oh, my eye is on fire, everybody. Let's look at the pictures I saved. Is this the first one I saved this morning? Oh, vast majority of solar geoengineering research to date has been carried out in labs and computer models. Now, if you want to get the real scientific, the so-called stratospheric controlled perpetration experiment was expected to be the first such scientific effort conducted in the stratosphere, but it proved controversial from the start. And in the end, others may have beaten them across the line of deliberately releasing reflective materials into that layer of the atmosphere that stretches approximately 10 to 50 kilometers above the ground. That would be what, 6 miles, 6.2 miles and 35 miles, 32 and a half. 100 miles would be 62. Okay, yeah, okay, all right. So there you go. David Keith did it. He's that guy. Now he's working at the University of Chicago. He had been at Harvard for, well, that's where he was when Barack Obama hired him and said, we need to start studying this now. Could something like this work in the Earth's atmosphere? Hey, look, that must be what they're talking about, this little thin layer of atmosphere. Fear is what you want. There's your thumbnail, everybody. The astronauts survived by scrubbing and modifying their air. See, these are carbon dioxide. It's bad. Carbon monoxide or carbon dioxide. Don't breathe it. They fixed it on the ground. So exciting. This guy said, help, help, Houston, help me. No, they had to abort the moon landing because they had a small problem with faking this moon landing. They almost drowned in the training pool. No, that was somebody else. So that movie was sponsored by David Koch. Remember him? He's the guy that's the John Birch now. That's the Jesuit thing. That is the money thing. Stir up the right wing. Show them a better way. Fascism, conservatism. When are they going to get? They're down on that DEI. Can we cool the planet? That's their question. We got some things that are going to. See, this would have been a good thumbnail. Small, maybe. Portable. Looks like, I don't know. Could you take it anywhere? What's this? Constipation, the keto diet, riot level, sound pattern insoluble. I don't know. Sound pattern fit. These are things I searched. Triangle using the equation of a squared plus a squared equals b squared, a squared plus b squared equals c squared. And this could be, A could be any number. B could be any number. Usually it's a 2 and a 4. So it's a big deal, we'll get to it. There's not that much to math until you start making it up. These people, they will have you searching the Giza. Now, the ancient Salvatio scale, supposedly found, is hidden in the book of Numbers. It's going to be a code. It's going to lead you to the Giza pyramids. I watched some of this, and they lead you to the Giza pyramids. Oh, it's John Dee and those guys, Francis Bacon. People lean towards one or the other. For example, the 432 hertz frequency has power, wonder-working power. They've also made a connection between Saturn and 528. So, the Bible has a code and Saturn has a code, and they don't care about the Lord. They really don't. That's because the sun has a measurable sound and vibration, like the earth has a frequency. In the matter of the size of the Khufu, the Great Pyramid is like 440. Huh? Okay. 432 was its original base, and 1 to 432. So everybody, sound and vibration is what I woke up to this morning. Thought I'd share it with you. The Babylonians said that the first king or the first creation, 432,000 years passed between something. Maybe we can find that one. but that should be loud enough. Wow. One of these guys is in the video, ocean wide, inch deep, Echo Star huge. This has something to do with, I think, Dish Network. It's been around for a long time, and then like in the last 2 months, it's like, oh no, we got to close. Southwest Airlines, 50 years, never laid off anybody. Just laid off 15%, not looking good. Something happened the last couple of months. This is the last empress of Iran, Persia, the Shah of Iran, the Ayatollah Khomeini. We got the oil, we need it. We got to stamp down those fake Muslims. Women's right at that time were so progressive, and the women were coming along so well. And then the Ayatollah, because well, I'm sure it was working out for her. Women's liberation was very important. It was, and it still is, I'm sure, said Farah Diba, the third wife and last empress of Iran. See that disclaimer? We got that out of the way early. Did you get all that? Everybody get that? Hi, everybody. Look, I shaved and stuff. So, had a nice day here today. RJ did not have a nice day. The weather there is terrible. Been disclaimed. Wait till you see some of this stuff. Now here, let's look at something new, as if the people, because all those observatories that were built in that real old world style were found in the old world style. They say some were built, one was built in 1848, the Leviathan. Here's why the guy built it. Hold on to your hat. Don't fall off of your Davenport. That's a word I heard that they used to use for a couch. They used to call a couch a Davenport. It's like looking in a mirror.
For Robinson, nothing less than the fate of Christianity was at stake. Robinson loathed evolution.
Wow, I like this guy more and more. I'm going to hear some more because I disclaimed, and this part is so cool. It's the Leviathan. It's like looking in a mirror.
To be a night when it's cloudy or raining, then you've lost it, maybe for months, maybe for years. So we can see that getting reliable observations out of the telescope was a matter of real difficulty and considerable controversy.
Lord Rosse had built the telescope largely to demonstrate the power of Victorian technology.
But there was another equally important figure in the story, in the life of the telescope. That was Thomas Romney Robinson, priest, master astronomer, very close friend of Lord Rosse and frequent visitor to the telescope. For Robinson, nothing less than the fate of Christianity was at stake. Robinson loathed evolution. He loathed the nebula hypothesis. He thought the idea that there was luminous fluid somewhere in space from which all planets...
Isn't that interesting? This is 1847, 1848. He's hating this before it was dedicated. So, wasn't that cool? Need a little, I know you want to hear these names and dates again with the reminder. This is 1848.
Romney Robinson, priest, master astronomer, very close friend of Lord Rosse and frequent visitor to the telescope. For Robinson, nothing less than the fate of Christianity was at stake. Robinson loathed evolution. He loathed the nebula hypothesis. He thought the idea that there was luminous fluid somewhere in space from which all planets, all stars, all life had somehow emerged was a dangerous, filthy heresy. And what he set out to do was to use the telescope as a weapon in the fight for the survival of religion itself.
Wow, that is pretty darn cool. It's easy to remember. It's right around the 25-minute mark. This girl owns the farm now. She's rebuilding it. Where are you, Lord, Lady, whatever? Where's that? She's coming up.
You can even fly. A steam-powered engine can give you a shave, but it can also go,
Oh no. So they talk about that and how big it is. There's so much more underground.
His plans were exquisite, detailed masterpieces of Victorian science and technology. First, a difference engine with 8,000 parts.
Oh wait, this is not the same thing. This is that difference engine, the counting machine. Okay, so we want to jump ahead. I thought the whole show kind of was about the Leviathan, but no. So serious.
built to try to resolve the mysteries of the nebulae.
This is the great telescope that was built here between 1842 and 1845. It was the largest such instrument in the world, a status it would maintain right through the rest of the 19th century and well into the 20th. And it was with this machine that some of the fundamental problems of evolution, of science and belief, of religion and of creation would be resolved.
So it sounds like whatever the creator of this machine did that hated evolution, the Jesuits got their hands on it, twisted it to say, now you believe our religion's version of it, or we'll skin you alive. Well, when they're in power, that's what they do.
It soon came to be known as the Leviathan, and it was built by the third Earl of Ross and paid for with cash from his wife, Mary Ross.
Yeah, that's convenient.
Lady Alicia is their great
She
granddaughter.
rebuilt it.
She spent years cataloging the castle's archive.
Just going to see some of the pictures of the family and then hear about the tunnels underground, and we're moving on.
Including some remarkable photographs taken by Mary.
She was a pioneer photographer, and but for those photographs, we wouldn't have a record of what exactly it looked like because we have no working drawings. And of course, all the metal work was melted down in the First World War.
I wonder why all the metal work was, if it wasn't for the money in her own pictures, there'd be no documentation of how much some people hated evolution as much as I do.
So the telescope was very complicated mechanically. It's got underground tunnels in order to get all the pulleys and the counterweights. And those photographs are incredibly useful when you're trying to restore and rebuild. And
they also include, very often, this is one of the reasons I love them, there's the family.
There's always a family in it. Mary Ross on top of...
Oh, the royals they're people too. They always got to do this, right? This is one RJ sent me here. Mandela effect. That's what they call it where I'm from. I don't know why they call it Mandela effect here. Mandela. That's not even how you spell Nelson Mandela. So I looked it up. And sure enough, test. Why have you tempted me to test? Prove you later. They tempted me. Test every day. There it is. God tested Abraham. The word means test. Let's see what the other people said. Tested, tested, tested. Come on. If they want to twist the Bible and think it's changing, you know what, we ought to just let them. You know, we don't have to agree with them or placate them. Mr. David Keith, everyone. So this is, I thought this was later. This must be a preview. This is his resume.
Technology to capture CO2 from ambient air to make carbon neutral hydrocarbon fuels. Dr. Keith earned his PhD in experimental physics from MIT, but chose a different trajectory for his career, moving into geoengineering as a postdoctoral fellow in Carnegie Mellon's Department of Engineering and Public Policy. He has been a professor at Harvard and the University of Calgary. In 2009, he founded Carbon Engineering, a Canadian-based clean energy company leading the commercialization of direct air capture technology.
Good, make some money.
That captures carbon dioxide
Share it,
directly from
spread
the
it
atmosphere.
around.
Based in Cambridge, Professor Keith spends about a third of his time in Canmore, Alberta. Professor Keith has a long list of accolades and prizes, including the Diamond Jubilee Medal Award.
That sounds cool. I wanted to look up the Leviathan telescope. They know who it is. Hey. The largest telescope for 72 years. He says here he loathed evolution. Oh, wait. This guy, a pioneer that helped 1774. Well, that's convenient, you know, just coming out of the gate. Going to prove something to somebody in the middle of foggy Ireland. This is the remake of it. Not plans. So it looks like they just took this out of the Wikipedia. Same thing. That's where he was an altar boy. I wanted to look him up, that castle. So here it was, yep, same picture. Low frequency radio telescope in the castle grounds. So it must be a convenient place and a good place to wonder what that looks like from above. I see 1, 2, 3, 4 points here, four. I'd say, who's going to guess there's some over here? That just happens to be on the ground. That's one of the original mirrors for, it was worth it for them. They had the money, they had the time, they had the inclination. There's the whirlpool vortex. Looks fake. It looks fake as all, that drawing is fake. That must be the girl with the money. So when was this? Well, was completed in 1845. The Hooker telescope. There it is. This almost caught on fire in the famous Los Angeles fire from last summer. Remember? They didn't have any water. They had all those flaming. It was on fire. Pacific Palisades burned up. What happened there? That's the polishing disc, huh? That doesn't look like it'd be very good at polishing. NASA, 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 more NASA. So, Mary, where'd you get all the money? This Countess of Ross, 11 children, 4 survived. She was into doing photography. The couple became interested in astronomy. Mary Ross helped her husband build a number of giant telescopes, including the Leviathan. The Leviathan was going to be a part of history because Jules Verne mentioned it. Great famine, she kept 500 people fed and employed, working in and around the beer castle where she and her husband lived. Oh, Mary, Mary, you're never contrary when it comes to helping the poor. And her husband hated, loathed evolution. So back to your lifetime, my lifetime, I guess I was going to go fight these guys because some reason it was like, we're all mad.
Attack. Khomeini denounces corruption, state violence, and the torture used by the state's secret service Savak. He threatens the tyrant of our time in a speech with a black reaction to the White Revolution.
Khomeini war der Einzige, der sehr radikal damals gegen den Schah sich geäußert hat. Hat ihm gedroht, dass ihn als einen sündhaften Menschen, religiös sündhaften Menschen darstellen würde. Und hat gedroht, einen Aufstand gegen ihn zu organisieren.
It's the religious mafias, you know, the Muslims are one God, anti-Trinitarian, and they hate the other anti-Trinitarian, only the Jews. Well, the Bible teaches, and, you know, one God thing. These people are made up. There's oil there. This was going to happen, and it is happening. There was no need to burn petroleum, to rape the earth. We could have done it without oil, but it was easier this way. And now, slowly and surely, they had one guy that was educated in Sweden, like the same as the Shah of Iran. The Ayatollah was educated over there, and he bided his time. He had his job. He did it.
Islamic legal system could be like, with the clergy taking on a leading role. He condemns the shallowness and pure sensual pleasures of the West, attacks the colonial powers and Israel, and demands the end of separation of politics and religion. The transcripts of the lectures are published in a book about the Islamic State.
I think I was one of the maybe first people to read it.
And I really think that they're going to work on a one world religion, and Trump and the Jews, and we all have to just realize we need to get along.
There's a growing body of evidence for the clergy being behind the attack, with Khomeini as the mastermind in the background.
After Iraq, it was a different story, both in magnitude, in the anger, and in the slogans. For the first time, I heard thousands of people say death to the Shah.
See, it works slowly, but relentlessly. Now let's get back going, into our present time. Keith was born in Wisconsin, British-born field biologist as a father, civil servant. Of course, he did the grad school. Very, very smart. Super smart. Went to work. Look, NASA's in the first paragraph. Harvard, Kennedy School, atom informeter. That sounds hard. Fournier transport spectrometer. I'm lucky I even heard of this. I've heard of Fournier. That's the only reason I don't know what he did with it. He's smart. Carbon capture and storage. Going to make some money. Still in business. Okay. Recently changed careers to Chicago. When did he? I mean, he's been doing this. Co-author 2001. The third assessment report. Doesn't say too much about atmospheric aerosols, but it does say manage biological carbon reservoirs and geoengineering. There's the engineering part of it. So right around the time of 9/11 and we have 45 years left to go. So what's he all about? There he is.
Water availability. And what we found, like every other model, is you see this thing you probably all know, that the wet get wetter and the dry get drier. That's the sort of general fact we see from climate models. So what's interesting is solar geoengineering almost perfectly reduces that. There was no region that was made where there was significant exacerbation of dryness. For extreme precip,
is anybody else getting a vibe that would be like, wow, I'd be like this guy. I'd be fighting to stay awake, struggling to pay attention. He's stuttering, he's stammering. Is he smart? I can't take it.
Geoengineering is extraordinarily effective in reducing extreme precip, and there's some basic physics why that should be true. But again, we see strong reductions in extreme precip. This was the max 5-day precip over a year.
You can do it. Stay awake.
Temperature is easy, so temperature is reduced everywhere. So it's been my full-time work for probably since 1990 or so, and I think we won't get real political action without this sort of politics of people marching on the street. I think, and it's exciting to see it.
You're gonna march on the street.
It's not the only exciting thing. I think, over the last decade, the biggest surprise to me and the biggest real excitement has been the extraordinary drop in the cost of solar power. Wind power too, but less in.
This is the guy that's painting the skies. He's the one that encouraged it. He said that we got to do it. He proved it. They're keeping it secret because it's for your own good. Like their science, where they told you it's for your own good. Just stay 6 feet apart. So what is this school? The vast majority of solar geoengineering research to date has been carried out in labs and computer. All right. New research group will explore various approaches to solar geoengineering. I know everybody's like, it's a conspiracy. Well, not if as a year ago, everybody is admitting it now. It's kind of like they're still hung up on the mask and things, but not realizing that you're probably getting myocarditis. I'm not a doctor. I go see your doctor if you have questions, but who would think that, oh, you're such an idiot. You believe in chemtrails because you didn't call it this, the Scopex problem, atmospheric aerosol perpetration. Come on, people, now. I know that you're right. It is a scientific experiment run by the Harvard University to advance understanding of stratospheric aerosols that could be relevant to solar geoengineering. It doesn't matter if you convince your wife, your bus driver, your best man, your brother, or your flower girl. They don't affect your salvation. And if they think you're silly, well, they're just thinking you're silly. Hopefully you didn't do something else silly, but this isn't silly. Believing this obviously is not silly. What'd they call it? This was one of the pictures. And I said, well, that's a neat picture. And so I clicked on it and I said, like, mega Chiroterra Soteradella, Roland Janera. And they're like, I gotta see it. So I clicked on it, and it has these videos. You know, and it's like, oh my goodness. Don't call it chemtrails or you won't get anything. And then, well, maybe it's because you have to translate it here. I think I'll translate it. I think I translated it. And now it's in English. This is from 2020. People been knowing it, but we were locked down, put down. We were all told to go to the check in that place. Bellhop's tears are flowing. The desk clerk is dressed in black. It's called Lonely Street. You'll have your phone and you'll be lonely, baby. So 2019, the history of it, Bill Gates initially proposed a Strato Shield, was renamed Strato Cruiser because Bill Gates, it's funded by Bill Gates, and he said, no, man, Strato Shield, heck no, Strato Cruiser, baby. So Harvard Solar they got a program rolling there researching that geoengineering that doesn't exist. Hired David Keats over 1990. Still looking for a date on the history of it here. You got a date anywhere here? 110 volts. No, civic societies proposed a permanent ban on geoengineering. Oh no. I wonder if Monsanto could help. Hands Earth, Mother Earth Manifesto. This manifesto was presented at COP24 and also proposes to stop the insanity, the stratospheric controlled perpetration experiment. They don't like the Scopex Stratocruiser. They like the name because they like Marvel comic movies. Microsoft co-founder, Hewitt Foundation, Alfred P. Sloan, and other people who like to give away their stolen money because the mafia says, give this money away. Look at all those references. Does this still work or are they shut down, man? Well, they're flying around up there. It'd be hard to see these balloons up there. That's how they do your internet and everything else. You knew that this was a flat earth, right? This whole ball is a joke. It's part of the lie. Wow. Is that as big as it looks? I wonder how hard it is for them to guide the storms. Not that I feel sorry for them in any way. There's David Keats. Let's see if he's still boring.
What if you discovered a way to cool down the planet? Extreme weather events are becoming more common and more ferocious.
Literally touch every living thing on the planet.
They're looking at ways to reflect
A little bit of editing, it goes a long way, you know. Drop him in for a sentence and then, you know, get these guys. Look, he fell in love with a 40-year-old woman when he was 15. She punched him the other day.
climate change and the ways in which humans alter their behavior on Earth. Some scientists discuss changes to the Earth itself. In 2018, they'll take to the stratosphere to learn what it might take or cost. Own risks.
You're introducing something into the environment that wasn't there naturally. There will be side effects. The question is, can we understand how big or small they are?
If humanity...
There he is. How's the side effects going to affect this smiling boy?
Ever decides to do it, there will be deep uncertainty about how well it works and what the risks are.
And
why 110 agencies sued these people? That was a good one. I mean, was that good? I want to see the machine. And
Mass that we're going to introduce is well below a kilogram of material. To give you an idea, this is truly a small-scale experiment. On the ground, there will be no noticeable impacts from that aerosol being introduced in the stratosphere at 20 kilometers. Stratospheric balloon, from that suspended is an equipment gondola. In many ways, the equipment gondola is what actually performs the experiments, which produces aerosol in the stratosphere, and which we then also use to measure the effect on the stratosphere.
Oh.
The balloon itself is a very standard stratospheric balloon platform. This happens, these balloons are used on a very regular basis from a variety. There's both platforms.
They've asked me
so
to
the size
do
of
sort
this
of an
balloon experiment itself is entirely within the normal size of stratospheric balloon launch.
I think, along with many physicists, or most physicists, I think, who've looked at this, solar radiation management is a very dangerous technology, and in many ways, it would itself constitute dangerous interference with the climate system. So I think these sort of experiments translated into policy are deeply unwise and deeply unhelpful.
Okay, so we agree with that. Now, this guy just keeps getting paid. I guess he does teach some online energy with environmental constraints. It's free. It's 10 weeks long. From Harvard University. I maybe that's old. Was Ben Franklin thought of as perverted? Not considered perverted. He was not considered perverted. In his 1745 letter, he advised a young man about channeling sexual urges. That's normal. Recommended go find an old concubine as the best choice. That's not perverted. He published tabloids, newspapers with the first ever sex advice column in 1729. How close to that is 1711, when a man supposedly with no education popped out of nowhere at the beginning of the reset, and him and his brother, because his dad was a small printer, started printing letters from a young man written as an old widow named Silence Dogood. And I guess that's where he could be giving some of his advice, but he was not perverted. Advice to a friend on choosing a mistress. That proves it. Due to its licentious nature, the letter was not published during the 1800s because he's a pervert. All the founding fathers, come on. Sometimes Ben Franklin was too weird for society. He just had wild notions that he could run around naked, call it air breathing or air bathing. Quite a hellraiser in London in 1725. His reputation for wooing the ladies followed him. He was too ready to engage when young arms invite him. Oh boy, didn't bother. He was one of those guys, wasn't, faithful to his wife. Bones in the basement studying cadavers, but it's okay. It's Ben Franklin. There's too many things to go crazy on about the guy. His relationship with his daughter, often called Sally, was strained, I would imagine. But they say he wasn't a pervert. The revolution destroyed Franklin's relationship with his son, but him and James made on fine. the other brother. It wasn't like Ben Franklin had any money. He was poor according to them, and it was right after the 1711 they throw him into the mix. They never told us the truth. All of these people were colonizers. They led us to where we have to be, and they're constantly seeking it. The last thing is, look at one of the guys is out there looking for graves. He found one.
What it says, I cannot tell.
There's the rumors of old graves and graveyards being everywhere are true because it's a cover-up. And the cover-up is where it usually causes all the trouble. But they feel like they have to cover it up because otherwise you'd think we live in a dome, the Bible's true, that there's going to be a judgment. Then you'd find out that it's a flat earth nation, the golden age is past because the stones are crying out, and that we are living stones to be fit into the body of Christ, that yes, you're saved by grace, but you also will be judged by your talents, your deeds, like the parables. You've been given talents. You don't compare yourself to anybody else but what God has given you. And once you are saved by grace, then you understand the Bible. It's on. You will do your most for him. You will understand. He didn't lie when he said he was coming back to that generation. Then he was thrown into the pit. Then we had whatever the mud flood was. That was the 1,000 years. And then there was the reaping. The wheats and the tares that grew together, they all went away along with the third of the animals. And then there's us and some orphan brain drain memory hole trying to figure it out. Well, we got it now. It's all about Jesus. It's all about mud flood was Armageddon. It's all about do the right thing right now. And that's why me and my friends are never going to tell you anything else, because we know we're called, chosen, being faithful to having his best interest at heart. And that is making sure that everyone can feel like me right now. Your blood is not on my hands. If you want to stay in the city, watch it go down. Your blood is not on my hands or my friends' hands. Amen. Hallelujah. Aho. Aloha. Arrivederci. Ciao. Sayonara. Auf Wiedersehen. Nachme. Adios.